What's up, guys? Welcome back to Rosie TV. This is Safe here, and today we're going to be talking about the 8 possible replacements for Arsene Wenger at Arsenal. Obviously, the news came out just recently that Arsene Wenger is going to be stepping down as Arsenal manager, and that just honestly sounds so weird because I never thought I'd see the day that Arsene would step down. It's going to be so weird to watch Arsenal and not see Arsene Wenger on the sideline. I mean, throughout my whole life, Arsene Wenger has been coaching Arsenal. So that's kind of crazy, but, it was bound to happen. And there's 8 possible replacements that people are talking about. I might miss 1 or 2. If you guys heard about anybody else or have a suggestion, please also put that in the comment section below. But I'm going to be ranking the 8 people by who would be the best for Arsenal. So I'm going to start off with obviously the worst choice and moving up to the best choice. So number 8 is going to be Patrick Vieira. So Vieira, obviously a club legend at Arsenal, one of the absolute best defensive midfielders in Premier League history. And what's funny is ever since losing Vieira, they haven't really found a proper replacement for him in that defensive midfield area. But Vieira, I think, would be the worst choice, obviously because he's the least experienced manager out of all these 8. Right now, he's currently coaching New York City FC in the MLS, so he's not even experienced in a European aspect. Arsenal are obviously a big club, but he hasn't even coached a small club in Europe. So I feel like this would be a really bad choice, and it would be it would honestly be a choice that would be very emotional and not very thoughtful. What I mean is, you're taking him just because he's a club legend. He has potential as a coach. He's done some good things at New York. But you're just taking him because he's a club legend. And as a Milanista, I can tell you right now, don't think with your heart, because there's many club legends in the past that haven't done a great job. Not everyone is like Zinedine Zidane and Pep Guardiola. There's a lot of Filippo Inzaghi's out there. So now moving on to number 7, and that's Brendan Rodgers. Now, I know a lot of Arsenal fans really do not want to see this happen. But Rodgers has definitely reinvented himself after going to Celtic in, I think, 2016. He went to Celtic, and he's done very well there. And at Liverpool, he was, I felt, didn't get enough credit. Obviously, he had that amazing season when he had Suarez and Stevie G and Danny Sturridge when they finished second in the Premier League, when they really should have won it. But he was very hit or miss at Liverpool. He had that fantastic season, but he also had the awful season the season after. So he was very inconsistent. And at Celtic, I know he deserves a lot of credit, but at the same time, it's the Scottish League and he's coaching Celtic. So if he wasn't dominating that league, then it would be his fault. So I don't think this would be a very good appointment. I don't think it would be a very smart appointment. That's why he's 7th on this list. Moving on to 6th place, I'm going to go with Luis Enrique. Enrique obviously coached Barcelona last season, and he obviously won the treble with them a few seasons ago. Enrique is another guy who I feel didn't get enough credit when he was at Barcelona. Obviously, it's a lot easier for a coach if they have Messi, Suarez, and Neymar up top. But at the same time, you have to give them credit. It's not easy winning a treble. A lot of coaches have had some fantastic players, but they weren't able to win big like Enrique was, and that it takes a lot of actual skill to control all those egos in the locker room, which I felt like he failed it at the end. But at the same time, I felt like he deserved more credit. I don't think Enrique necessarily would be the right long-term replacement. So unless they're really hoping for things to not work out with Guardiola and Man City down the line, and they're just going to get Enrique for a season or 2, I don't really think Enrique would be the best decision for Arsenal. Moving on to the 5th best replacement, and that's Thomas Tuchel. And Tuchel at Dortmund also was very hit or miss. Obviously he had that fantastic season when he finished 2nd behind Bayern, and he was playing some fantastic football, but tempers kind of flared at the end of his last season, and he lost his job, and he had a lot of trouble with the board. I do think he's still a fantastic manager, and I do think he has a lot of similarities to Pep Guardiola, but at the same time, this is another coach that really doesn't have that much experience at the very top level. I mean, with Dortmund, he didn't really accomplish much, and fair enough, he's in a league that's dominated by Bayern Munich. But even in Europe, he didn't really do anything that great. And I feel for Arsenal, they kind of have this win now mentality, or at least they're going to have that win now mentality after Arsene Wenger leaves. because, they haven't really been successful over the past few years, which I think that's the wrong mentality to have. So I do think Tuchel would actually be a pretty decent option long term, but I do think there are better options that Arsenal have. So while I think that Tuchel wouldn't be a bad replacement for Wenger, these next 4 guys I feel would be a lot better. Now moving on to number 4, and that's Leonardo Jardim. And Jardim, for me, he really showed what he could do with Monaco last season. He won Ligue 1, which, you got to give him massive credit for winning Ligue 1, because PSG definitely had a monopoly over Liga for many seasons. But, he did very well with the people he had. He promotes youth, which I know Arsenal, that's a club that's based around youth. And not only that, he also has that European pedigree. He got Monaco to the Champions League semifinal last season, which also deserves a lot of credit. And even this season, after losing the likes of Mendy, Bakayoko, Bernardo Silva, and Mbappe, 4 very key players, he still managed to fight for a Champions League spot, and they're currently second place in Liga. It looks like they're going to actually get that Champions League spot next season. So he's done very well with the little amount that he's had, and I feel like he could do very well at Arsenal. Tactically, I feel like he's very flexible, so I do think he would be a very good replacement for Arsenal, but not as good as these next 3, which leads me to number 3, and that's Massimiliano Allegri. Someone that I know a lot about. He coached Milan, obviously, for all those years. He did win a Scudetto with us. That was our last Scudetto. And while I do know what he is capable of, because at the end of his tenure, I felt he was awful. But he really bounced back with Juve. I mean, they've dominated Serie A over the past few years. And they also made a mark in the Champions League as well, making 2 finals in the past 3 years. So, Allegri definitely has a lot going for him, and I feel like he could be good at Arsenal, even though he has never coached outside of Italy. So I feel like that could be the challenge for him. But he's definitely proved himself both domestically and in a European sense. I know he hasn't won a Champions League, but still making the finals 2 times in 3 years is still, very impressive. So I do feel that he could do a lot with Arsenal if given the resources. So this is definitely going to be a different challenge. Obviously, Juventus, the seeds were kind of planted by Antonio Conte before Allegri came in, but Allegri's done a wonderful job overseeing that. So if Arsenal do manage to get him, I think it would be a good get. But finally, now we're down to our last 2, and number 2 has to be Carlo Ancelotti. I know Ancelotti is a little bit older, and his time at Bayern Munich wasn't the best, but at the same time, that really doesn't mean much, because he still accomplished so much more in other places. I mean, at Real Madrid, he's the one who got them La Decima. Obviously, at Milan, those 7 years, probably one of our best coaches of all time. So, with Arsenal, I do think this would be a very good win-now mentality coach, because Ancelotti, I don't think he's a good long-term option, but if they do give him the resources from the get-go, Ancelotti is your guy to oversee all these big players and to get them playing in a very direct style. But at the same time, the reason why he's not number 1 is because he's not a long-term option. And Arsenal really have 2 choices here. They could either go the Manchester United route, which is, they had David Moyes and they went with Louis van Gaal. Now they're with Mourinho. Going from manager to manager, they could go that route, which really is not the route they should go, because a lot of teams go that route and they're constantly, taking a step back. Really, they should go with this number 1, and this is going to be their long-term option. He's a fantastic young coach, and that's Julian Nagelsmann. And I know I've said with some of these coaches on this list, they're not experienced. That's why they're not, they shouldn't be the first choice. And while Nagelsmann isn't quite experienced at the top level, he's done some fantastic work with Hoffenheim, and he's got them playing an attractive style of football, a very effective style of football. And for me, I feel that if he was given more at a big club like Arsenal, I feel like he would flourish, because he's one of the best young coaches in Europe, taken a lot from the likes of Guardiola and even Jurgen Klopp a little bit. And I feel like he could be the long-term option for Arsenal. He's only 30 years old, so some of the players at Arsenal would be older than him. But, if you want to really build a dynasty, if you want the next, Arsene Wenger, the next coach that's going to stay with you for many years, I think Nagelsmann would be the perfect option. And I'm surprised no team has really snatched him up quite yet after, last season, his great season with Hoffenheim. And this season, while they've dropped off, they're not as good. I still think there's a lot of positives when it comes to Nagelsmann. I feel that they will really regret the decision of not taking him this summer, especially if a bigger team comes around, maybe next year or the year after that, to take him, such as a Real Madrid or a Barcelona or whoever. So I do think that Arsenal really need to strike right now, get Julian Nagelsmann. I think would be a very ambitious move, and you could start building the foundation for the next generation of Arsenal with this great young coach. But that's it for this video, guys. Tell me, rank your options in the comment section below. Also, if I missed anybody, like I said, put that in the comment section below as well. Maybe Diego Simeone, maybe somebody else. Please like, share, and subscribe to Rosie TV for more football content, and thank you for watching.